As flowers open with fresh scents in the morning, so does the hands of the God with new blessings. I wish you receive them today and always. Good morning and a very warm welcome to one and all present here. Thank you for joining us in today's webinar. Today, our PG and Research Department of Economics of Saraswati Narayanan College, located in Madurai, Tamil Nadu, organizes a national webinar on gender inclusive economic growth, strategies and challenges. We are so happy to organize this kind of an informative program during this pandemic situation. The session will start sharply by 11 a.m. Before that, we request you to mute all your video and audio for the smooth conduct of this program. During this webinar, please do not try to present and please do not try to interrupt in between the session. Please type your questions in the chat box if any, and after the session gets over, your questions will be answered by the resource person. Now I request our organizing secretary, Dr. K. Meenakshi Sundaram Sir, Assistant Professor, Department of Economics, Saraswati Narayanan College, to deliver the formal welcome address. Please, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Good morning to all. With the prayers of today, your will be done through this event. Take what we have prepared and multiply our efforts as only you can steer. Welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar. I am Dr. K. Meenakshi Sundaram, Assistant Professor, Department of Economics, Saraswati Narayanan College, Madurai, Tamil Nadu. I take the privilege to welcome our Honorable Secretary and Joint Secretary of our college. I also welcome respected Principal and Vice Principal, my HOD and IQAC Coordinator, and all the participants to this webinar. I heartily welcome Professor Maya Salimat. She is the Director of Quality Assurance Cell, RR Institutions, Bengaluru, Karnataka, to give the presentation on topic Gender Inclusive Economic Growth, Strategies and Challenges. Inclusion is not a matter of political correctness. It is the key to growth. When we listen and celebrate what is both common and different, we become wiser, more inclusive and better as an organization. So I believe that this webinar will be interesting and fruitful with the support of all the participants. Thank you.
Now I request our HOD and convener of this program, Dr. M. Jayakumar Sir, to introduce our resource person and give the felicitation address. Please, sir.
The most respected management of the great institution, respected principal, respected vice principal, the most respected and dynamic person, Professor Maya Salimat, who is the resource person for this webinar, respected organizing secretary, Dr. Meenakshi Sundaram, beloved teaching fraternity of our college, learned participants. Good morning, everybody. Patient, warm welcome to you all. To this thought-provoking webinar on gender inclusive economic growth, strategies and challenges, organized by the PG and Research Department of Economics of our college. You all know that only when both men and women are engaged in economic activities, we can see the maximum height. We can reach the maximum height. But there is a gender disparity almost in all countries over a period of even several decades. We find disparity in health, disparity in education, disparity in the society, gender disparity in economic activities, gender disparity in politics, and even gender disparity in the mobility also. We know that Indian Constitution grants equal rights to men and women. But unfortunately, what is now practiced? So in all spheres of human life, we find gender inequality. In particular, the economic inequality, gender inequality, it's a very serious problem. Only when the gender economic inequality and solved, the other inequalities, in my opinion, will disappear automatically. The base for disappearance of all other inequalities in all other areas, gender inequality in all other areas, will disappear only when the gender economic inequality disappears. So that's why we have chosen the topic gender includes economic growth, strategies and challenges. For this webinar, we have been searching for a resource person. We have been keeping on searching for the resource person. At last, we found the right person, that is Professor Maya Salimat. It is my bounden duty to introduce her to the participants. So when I go through the biodata given by her, the striking point is that she is the director of internal quality assurance cell of RR Institution, Bangalore. It's a very nice thing that to learn that she is a director for internal quality assurance cell of RR Institutions in Bangalore. She is the right person to speak on this particular area, gender inclusive economic growth. So she is a good corporate trainer. She is a corporate trainer, and she is also an auditor. And the most important thing to note here is that she is a soft skills engineer, and she is an approved trainer. So very important thing is that she is an approved trainer, approved by NBA and NAC. So this itself is an indication that she is very meritorious, and we can understand the contribution that he has made to the academic field. Unless she has contributed more to the academic field, she would not have be an approved trainer, a trainer approved by NBA and NAC. And regarding the award that she has backed, she has won a good number of awards. She is the best. She won the award of best director and APJ Abdul Kalam Award for teaching excellence, best teacher award by various institutions. The number of awards that she has won, that itself is an indication that she is a very good academician, and her contribution to the field of higher education is really remarkable and laudable. I take this opportunity to extend a warm welcome to her and enlighten us on this particular area, gender inclusive economic growth, strategies and challenges. So inclusiveness is very essential. And to talk about this inclusiveness, gender inclusiveness in economic activity, the right person would be a woman. That is also another one of the reasons why we have that is very essential. That she alone can explain, a woman alone can explain the ordeals that they are undergoing, the difficulty that they are experiencing because of this economic inequality. So we have chosen the right person, a person from that other gender, and not only that, her academic credential is very, very, very laudable. That's why we have fixed her as the speaker. I take this opportunity to offer my felicitation to the Department of Economics for having organized such a great webinar on gender inclusive economic growth strategies and challenges. I really appreciate the organizing secretary, Dr. Meenakshi Sundaram, for having come out with this wonderful idea on organizing a webinar on gender inclusive economic growth strategies and challenges. I just profusely thank the technical support given by Mr. Ilayaraja. I really thank him, and I once again offer my felicitation to the department. I just really soulfully welcome the speaker of this day, Maya Salimati. Thank you very much.
Namaste. This is the topic which is given by the organizing team, Gender Inclusive Economic Growth, Strategies and Challenges. Before I start presenting anything further, I wanted few of the participants to share their views on what is gender inclusiveness. I request few of the participants to unmute themselves and please let me know what is gender inclusiveness. Participants, please. I have seen, there are a lot of faculties, learned academicians from various institutions. I request participants to please let me know or share your experiences on what is gender inclusiveness. So I have received some answers. Inclusion of both men and women. Okay, very good. Further. Okay, there is only one response. General inclusiveness, okay, including gender regardless of difference. Professor Hina Sharma giving this answer. Okay, giving equal opportunity to both men and women to excel. Okay, Professor Swarna Jyoti. Okay. Includes all genders equally, fine. Creating a level playing field for both the genders, fine. Okay, do we have any other answers coming up? Regardless of, okay, Smita Singh, regardless of gender, equal opportunity to all, okay. Ilayaraja sir, opportunities and establishments open to all, okay. Okay, we have many more answers coming in. It facilitates the breakdown of unconscious bias. Very good. This is Professor Amrita CS. I'm just reading out the answers people are giving in the chat boxes. We have got answers from Pumati, Shashi Kumar, Shamala madam. More or less the answers are similar. All are equal. Beulah ma'am, Bhargavi, Dr. N. Bhargavi, Purnima ma'am. Okay, fine. So more or less, everyone are giving the answers which are connected. Fine. Thank you so much for all the participants who are helping me to take it forward. Okay, more or less, when we talk about the gender inclusion, we are all connected to various genders. That is what all of you answer. Okay, I started sharing my screen. So this is the title on which I'll be sharing my information or my experiences on gender inclusiveness for the economic growth. rather than talking more about the strategies and challenges, I'll leave my discussion open for people to think on that and how you would react upon that. I would not tell you specific strategies, because every individual will have their own strategies, and coming together economically, most of them will have conclusive strategies. However, any presentation of mine, I always put this as a first slide of my session. I take this opportunity to thank a lot of those people who have given me an exposure towards gender inclusion. My guide, philosopher, well-wisher, Dr. B. Rose Kavita, who had helped me to come down to this particular state where I have been giving a lot of lectures today at this state. And my other thank goes to my mother, who was the first person who has taught me the gender inclusion. I am the first woman from my family, both father's and mother's family, where I was let out, come for studies out of the town where I was born and brought up. So my thanks to her. She was the one who taught me how to work on gender inclusion. And all those professors who has taught me sociology, and wherein they have taught me regarding all those problems of societies and all thanks to them. And then the thank to the organizing committee, because I understand at the end of the session most of the people will be quit before listening to the Thanksgiving ceremony. So I thank the organizing committee have been for selecting me as a resource person for the session today. And I also thank all the audience who have kept faith on the organizing team and also have attended the session today. Okay, so this was my thanking ceremony. Further, now when I asked what is gender inclusion, these were the responses which I have received from the participants. So most of them are talking about inclusion of both men and women, giving equal opportunity to both men and women in the fields, includes all genders equally. It is then, see, when we look at the answers which I have received in the chat box, I could see that most of them are talking about men and women. The Indian Constitution has now given an opportunity for registration of the third gender also. Are we also involving them in the business world is a question. So my presentation would not be talking anything on men especially, because from the day, at least I don't know many of you, but from the day I have been brought up, I was born, and I have started sensing things in the external world. I have been seeing a lot of men who have been taking care of the economy, whether it be a house economy or whether it be a state, a town economy, state, or a country. We have been learning and seeing a lot of men who have been involved into business, who have been involved into jobs, who have been the bread and butter earners for the family. We have seen a lot of men who have, marched forward in various fields and who have been taking care of the economy, business, and also their family. But now I am not at all talking anything about men. It doesn't mean that I am biasing any gender, but my only concern here is we are only talking about the present issues in the society. Present issues in the society where, on one side we say that women are given an opportunity, and on the other side we also see all those problems which are holding the women back to grow forward or march forward. Okay, so this is the introduction which I'll be talking upon. So when we talk about the economic development, the basic understanding of economic development is growth of the standard living of people in that particular economy. It also talk about the political and social well-being of the people, that is the citizens. It talks about the income development. It talk about the positive changes which have been happening in the society. And it also talks about the early childhood education and also those reforms which have been taken in terms of the criminal laws and justice. So these are all the concerns of economic development. When as an economist, though I did my graduation with a major in economics, as an economist, we usually look into only the GDP, only the per capita income, or only the the development in terms of monetary benefits, all that. Majorly, economics is measure about that. But especially when we talk about economic development, these are the concerns of economic development, which we'll be talking in terms of my presentation further. Okay, so when it comes to diversity, equality, and inclusion, we always have to, as a responsible citizen, we always have to take care of these three things. Though we are into corporate world, we are not into corporate world, or we are into business, or whatever be the contribution of ours for the economic development, this is what we need to always look at. These are simple meaning and definitions which are given here. When we talk about diversity, diversity says that everyone is equal and everyone is different. So there are one best example which India is very famous is because of its unity in diversity. Though we have so many languages, so many customs, traditions, so many states having various rituals and the follow-ups. In spite of all that, India is always considered to have the diverse society. Though in the diverse society, something which always stands ahead is the equality which is given. Equality is an opportunity which can be accessed by everyone. There is an opportunity which can be accessed by everyone, that is called as an equality. And coming to the inclusion, inclusion is always that though we are diverse in terms of religion, culture, caste, creed, though we have an equal opportunity, we also should require a sense of belongingness, a sense of feeling respected. We are being valued for all that. That is your inclusion. I was just going through some figures and facts for preparing presentation here. I saw that diversity, inclusion and diversity is, everyone is called for a party and someone asks you to have food. Calling everyone to a party is diversity. You are calling everyone, giving an equal opportunity for them to come and attend your party. But when it comes to inclusion, you personally go to each person and ask whether the food is good, or you ask if they are feeling comfortable, all that. That is what inclusion is in a simple general terms. Okay, now when we talk about the inclusion, we are talking about the women who are following, who are making their own footprints in each of the domain, each of the sector which they are working. I'll not be explaining much about this slide because I have many more things to explain before that. And not only women, we are also talking about this LGBTQ as a gender inclusion. Not only gender, we are talking in terms of inclusion and diversity inclusion. That is what most of the developed countries are looking at. Okay, this also we'll be talking a lot about this slide little later. Now there was this one World Economic Forum which started looking at the global gender gap index and the World Global Gender Gap Index was introduced in the year 2006 by World Economic Forum. And from 2006 to 2020 year, World Economic Forum is conducting a lot of research in terms of the gender gaps across the countries. And in 2020, that is in spite of the pandemic issues, this World Economic Forum did a survey on 153 different countries, and most of the data which is exhibited is population weighted average. I'll show that data further in my further slides. So when the World Economic Forum coined this word, the Global Gender Gap Index, what were the major bases on which this gap index was formulated? They started looking, they considered the economic participation and opportunity of the genders. They also considered the educational attainment. They considered the health and survival of each of the genders. And they also looked at the political empowerment. These were the 4 criteria on which the Global Gender Gap Index was identified. Now here comes the statistics. I remember someone telling me that whenever you talk about whenever you present any of your data, there is always a yes. I personally may say that I always look into the gender inclusion. Or on the other side, I can either say that I am totally against the gender inclusion. Or when I say that I have so many statistics which tells about the gender inclusiveness or non-inclusiveness, probably your statistics will always stand strong. So hence I have brought in a lot of statistics which talks about those challenges, or which talks about those problems which are not supporting gender inclusion. I repeat again, I have brought in a lot of statistics which shows that though there are opportunities given to various genders, but there are a lot of setbacks through which can easily state that gender inclusion is not a successive rate in the developed and the developing economies. Okay, here we go. Now this is the gender gap. The gender gap in terms of health and survival, educational attainment. This is the total gender gap, wherein now only 25% of women have been politically empowered. Only 58%. This is across 153. This is the averaged percentage across 153 countries of the gender gap index, which was done by the World Economic Forum. Economic participation and opportunity is 58%. Educational attainment is 96%, though we have good records on this. And when it comes to health and survival, 97%. This seems to be better index. Now coming to the percentage of women in companies as the board of directors, there are these there are these country names I have mentioned here. I suppose my slide is visible to each one of you. One of the premier, one of the most developed countries, look at the percentage of the women being the board of directors in their companies, in that particular country's companies. Though the average of these countries is 1 out of 3, that is only 1 woman out of 3 women are the board of directors in the companies. Then looking at these other countries, it is only 1 out of 5 women. We have good countries, Switzerland, Poland, Canada, UK, Australia. These are one of the good, most developed countries. Coming to the other countries, out of 153, look at the percentages, look at the percentage of Korea. It is only 2.1% of women being the board of directors. This is the mere least percentage across. We also have Colombia, we also have Mexico, Chile, Brazil, all of these. But overall, when we take the average of these countries, it is only 1 out of 10 women in the companies. When we talk about these statistics, it is only 1 out of 10 women who are working in the companies are the board of directors. Okay, now coming to the education gap. We usually consider the education into, classify the education into primary, secondary and the tertiary. When it comes to primary education, it is only 88% of the total women are getting the education at the primary levels. When it comes to secondary level, it's dropping down to 66, and when it comes to the higher education, it is 41% across 153 countries. Just because I should not be too much propagandizing about the women gender, I have also brought in this male statistics also, male education gap statistics also. Coming to the workplace gap, when it comes to the women being the owners of the company, it is only 14% across the world. When it comes to women being the top managers, it is only 18%, and females being females in the senior roles of the company is only 36%. Then the women in the political empowerment, it is only 25% of the total, the sampled countries. 25% of the sampled countries are the members of parliament, and 21% are the ministers, and it is 47% of the countries. That is 47% of the countries out of 153 have been nominated women as the head of the state or the country in the last 50 years. Okay. Then the gender gap, which talks about the labor force. Women in the regular labor force is 49%, and women in the skilled roles is 40%. Very good statistics. Okay, so we also talk about some physical and sexual violence on the women in various countries. You can look at the statistics there. East Asia and the Pacific, it is 23% who have been physically abused, 45% in Middle East and North Africa. So overall, when we look at the average percentage, it is 31% of the total countries. 31% of the global population is physically abused or sexually abused. Okay. Now, in fact, in one of the IPC, that is Indian Penal Code, the Supreme Court has given a lot of rules and regulations on the sexual harassment part. Vishaka and others versus Rajasthan state. This was the case where the first case under the sexual harassment was filed up, and then after that particular case, there were a lot of rules and regulations which were given for monitoring the sexual harassment, actually monitoring the anti-sexual harassment. We usually, most of the colleges, we always go, when we go for an auditing or anything, they, by mistake, they always put it as the sexual harassment committee. It has to be actually the anti-sexual harassment committee. So we as a teachers should always look into this part. Now, the statistics of sexual harassment at women at the workplace, 1 in 4 women experience sexual harassment in the workplace. And most of the sexual harassments have happened in the ages between 18 to 34. And such cases, 1 in every 3 women have been harassed at the workplace. I have, in the previous slide, I have mentioned about what would be a sexual harassment. I know there are various forms of the harassment. Comparatively, collectively, all the cases have been listed here. So 81% of women have experienced harassment in verbal form. They usually called by names and other things. And 1 in 10, look at the statistics, 1 in 10 men also have experienced the harassment, maybe by their bosses, maybe by their colleagues or their superior supervisors, anybody for that matter. And this is one statistics which, women are always alarmed. 25% of men are always concerned about falsely accused for the harassment. Though Indian Constitution has given a lot of rights and privileges to women, and there have been a lot of supporting laws which have been protecting the rights of women, but it is said that 25% of the women are using all the laws and rights for a negative impact. So it is an alarming situation for all the women who are here. You can, who have been mothers, teachers, teach what is actually required. Okay, now coming to this one picture of the number of cases which have been filed in the companies. These are again the top Nifty companies, and this is the number of cases which are filed for the harassment. Okay, now recently, not recently, say some 4 or 5 years, from 4 or 5 years, we have this hashtag #MeToo thing which has been trolled on all social media platforms. Now, when we talk about this hashtag #MeToo, it is the concern on the various kinds of harassments which have been faced by men and women. Usually, when we say hashtag #MeToo, it is usually the exposure of women who comes into social media and says that they have been harassed in one or the other ways. These are the statistics when it comes to men and women. Verbal harassment, it is 76%. When it comes to men, it is only 35%. I'm not telling that men should also be equally harassed, but it should be a zero harassment zone, especially when it comes for the corporates or when it comes for the any domain where it is contributing to the economic development. So we have various types of harassment and the statistics here. You can just go through, look at the statistics given, and none of the statistics have been prepared by me. It is all there in the Google. Okay, and 90% of those who have been harassed or who have experienced the harassment never take it, never report on it, or or never taken formal action on that. This was the case which I was talking about, Vishaka and others versus state of Rajasthan. This was a very unforgettable case which has created a landmark decision by the Indian Supreme Court in 1997. After this, there were a lot of rules and regulations which were given under the Constitution, and also there are a lot of she committees which have been formed. There are a lot of posh committees which have been formed in the organizations, and only after this also a lot of educational institutions also have created the anti-sexual harassment committees or women committees, women empowerment cells, and all that. Okay. Now 65.2% of the women always say that whenever they are harassed at the company doesn't follow the procedures as per the Prevention, Prohibition and Redressal Act of 2013. Okay. Now this is the rape victims in America. 1 in 6 women are always are tried of an attempted of an rape, or who have been raped in the previous years. This is again the sexual assault, that is rape and other things. There is a link of the statistics through which I have got this data. 15% below the age of 12 to 17, 54% at the age of 13 to between the age of 18 to 34, 28% 35 to 64, and only 3% of the women being assaulted at the age of 65 and above. Okay. This is the other statistics which says that from the age of 15, these were the number of cases which were recorded, or people who have been harassed and all. I would not take much time on these slides. Now this is this domestic violence, domestic and homely violence, family and domestic violence, which that is what we call it. 72,000 women in 16 and 17, in the year 16-17, 34 as children, female children, and 9,000 men. These so many of them were domestically violenced, and because of that they had to leave their houses, and the government of Australia had to give them what you say, a home or like a stay place or anything. So this is the statistics in Australia also. And Australia is now considered to be one of the developing countries in terms of economy and other things. Now this is the data which I got for 2014 and 15. These were the number of cases which were reported to NCRB, Delhi, Mumbai, Bangalore, Chennai, Kolkata. So many cases, and the ages also, if you can just look into the number of ages under which people were molested or people were attempted for rape. And every year there is around a 20 to 27% increase. That is what the NCRB reports. Now this is the other kind of domestic violence which are usually found. Cruelty by husband and his relatives, assault to outrage the modesty of women, rape or insult the modesty of women, dowry, death cases. All of these are the crimes against the women. I am not trying to show you all the negative aspects here. It is just that, though we all are talking about the gender inclusiveness, and this is the background negative statistics which is available. In spite of this, there were a lot of women who have been struggling, who have had strong motivation and strong inclusion towards making a path for others to follow them. Now, say for example, we have this one of my favorite and one of my role models. She is Mrs. Sudha Murthy, who is the chairman of Infosys Foundation, who has been working a lot in terms of societal development activities. And one incident of her which I would like to share. One incident where she was the first engineer to pass from a very premier college called BVB College in Hubli, Karnataka. And this lady, when she passed her engineering, there on her notice board there was an advertisement, a recruitment recruitment advertisement for Tata Telco. And there was a clear statement which was mentioned that women need not apply. The girl students and women need not apply. She was the first one to write letter to JRD Tata and say that though you have developed a lot of though you have contributed to the lot of economic development of the country, thanks for that. But when you say that women should not apply for the job at your company, then are you not are you supporting the development of women? So this made her, JRD Tata himself call her for the interview, and he took her for the job. She was in fact the topper of the college and topper of the state. And she was then, after attending interview, she could join Tata Telco and start working with Telco. And because of her, whatever facilities, women welfare facilities are found in Tata Telco today is all thanks to her. She was the one who started asking for all the welfare facilities. Though if she was a single woman working there, still she demanded for all the facilities, and whatever gender inclusion and gender equality is found in Tata group of companies today is all because of her. On the other side, we have this Savitribai Phule, on which the university, one of the universities in Maharashtra, is being named after her. She was the first woman to get educated, and she was the one who started giving education to the women community. though when she was trying to do all this, there were a lot of communal, there were a lot of protests against her. In spite of all that, she had made a mark. We also have these other ladies here. We have this one Smriti Irani, who was the Honorable Minister of HRD. I don't want to talk about anything on her perspective of being a minister, but one thing which I want to bring to the notice of everyone here is, just by being an actor in one of the premier serials in Indian television, she became so famous that people opted her to be the ministers. Okay, so that happens only in India most of the time. And we also have Dr. Kiran Bedi here. We have Madhuri Dixit, or we have this Ekta Kapoor. Ekta Kapoor is the producer from Balaji Televisions, and she has made her own mark in terms of in terms of producing a lot of television serials, which on one case is also empowering women, on the other case is also wasting time of a lot of women. So we have both pros and cons on that. We have Mary Kom, we also have Chanda Kochar, all of them. I mean, I've just selected few names to here who have been, in spite of all the odds, who have developed themselves as the mark of a gender inclusion. Now coming to their their supports, we have it is understood that the family, the society should also be equally supportive. Once if a woman is marching forward, there has to be a lot of supporting hands, and thanks to all the men, not only of this family but also all the men who have been supporting women for their developments. Okay, so I have given a lot of statistics on women, all those which are holding them back, but still you also look at the statistics which were given in terms of the developmental part. Okay, I am not trying to blame anybody here, because whenever we usually talk about a woman talking about a woman's support, it always says that it always looks like she is blaming someone. I am not blaming someone, but it is just an eye-opening. That though women or men have to be supportive. Now what should the strategies be for developing or empowering women, or inclusivity of women gender in the society? One, their family. Second, every woman should be given an opportunity to step ahead if she wants to get educated. In fact, I remember one of my close relatives, we have this one lady who is not an educated one. Her husband, she has 4 kids and her husband is a drunkard who doesn't bring in any amount of money for her family survival. So what she does is she started doing small businesses which she can sit at home and start doing the business. That is how she started empowering, bringing the money for the survival of the family. And today they are well settled, and all the kids have grown up. They also have supported her mother, and that particular area, she has set up a good business for all those women who are after sending their husbands to the office and kids to the schools, who can at least do some extra work to help their husbands in the income of the family. Now that is one. The other one which I always say that women should be educated. We have a saying in Kannada that not only in Kannada, I think it is there in all the languages. It is said that if one woman is educated, the whole family is educated. There are a lot of women I have seen in my personal connects that once they are educated, they always struggle to make their kids or their nearby people educated. So education, freedom and support is what I always say, that these would be the better strategies where you can let the gender inclusion. And thanks to the government of India, there are a lot of entrepreneurship development facilities and schemes available. And there are a lot of schemes also available in terms of the subsidies, in terms of the loans, in terms of the training and other things, where a lot of women can be involved into the economic development of the country. They can start their businesses, they can start their ventures, through funding and other things. Apart from that, we also have the self-help groups which are supporting the women development, and which are also the basic thing which when a woman wants to be developed is the empowerment. The empowerment can be in terms of monetary, the empowerment can be in terms of support, and the empowerment can also be in terms of opportunities. So that is what I always talk about, the gender inclusion when it comes to women. When we talk about the gender inclusion and the diversity, there is also this one important thing which we should be taking care in terms of diversity. Diversity is everyone should be treated equally. Though we in society, we do come across a lot of this community. That is the lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgenders and queers. It is sometimes, the societal reflections, it is sometimes the biological reflections, all that, it is not that people, they themselves want to get into all this, but it is most of the time, these kind of human beings are also part of our society, and we also need to, as an educated people, we also need to include them in terms of society, include them as a part of the corporates or all the economic development parts. Okay, now when we talk about this, these are few of the problems which are faced. In fact, I was involved with CED Madurai, that is Center for Entrepreneurship Development Madurai, and we did a tremendous research on the various problems which were faced by the transgenders. We collected the data from most of the CBOs from 14 different districts of Tamil Nadu only. And we did a project in association with THI. And that research, we directly, gone through these transgenders who are vastly available in those CBOs or connected to those CBOs, and we try to find out what problems have been faced by these transgenders and what is that they are doing for their livelihood and other things. So during such interactions, we could find that there were these problems which were faced by them. Most of their families have asked them to go out of the family, stay out of the family, and even a society for that matter always keeps them outcasted. They have a lot of depression because of this. They try to attempt the suicides. Because of family outcasting, they had to drop their education, and because of depressions, depressions, they get into alcoholic influence. They also are addicted to hormonal pills, and because they are in such kind of gender, there are a lot of lack of medicinal facilities available for them. This work which we did was somewhere in 2014-15, and now coming to the other statistics. This is the LGBT statistics, and 29% of the LGBT population is women, and the age groups, this is the LGBT age groups between 18 to 29 and all others. And it is always said that 19% of the lesbians and 36% of the LGBT group is gay. And they are 40% of them are bisexual, 5% of them are same gender. And when we asked them for when the research was conducted and when they were asked regarding having the marriage, same-sex marriage, 51% favored and 42% opposed this. However, further statistics, percentage of countries addressing the transgender people and their national HIV strategies is only 61%, only 39%, and 61% do not include transgender people in their country strategic plans. Okay, now the other ones, 27% of the transgenders always find it difficult to go for schools because they always feel it unsafe. 35% of them always say that they have been bullied at the schools, and 35% of them have attempted the suicides. It's only almost 2% of all high school students identify themselves as the transgenders. It is during their high school studies. Now this is the living status of the transgenders, where they live, with whom they live and all. And coming to this, 4%, 4 in 10 of LGBT youth, that is 42%, always say that the community which they are living is not accepting them. So even for that matter, in India, there are a lot of constitutional laws which have been brought in for LGBT community. I'll also be talking about that laws little later. So 26% of LGBT always say that the biggest problem they have always faced is that not being accepted by their family, their schools and other things. So, and few of them who have been to schools, 22% of them say that their biggest problem was at the school exams, classes and the grades which were given to them. And the grades which were given to them were only because they fall into the LGBT status. 68% of the LGBT always say that they hear the negative comments about themselves by their own elected leaders. That is, all those political leaders. 68% of them always give a negative comment on the LGBT community. Now this is the other statistics on LGBT. 27% of the same-sex couples have children. Okay, so this is the American statistics which is available. Now this is the statistics of LGBT students and their lifestyles. 84% youth have the verbal, LGBT youth have the verbal harassments. 24% male gays were forced to move out of their families and who have seen the disapprovals. 28% of the LGBT youth have always dropped out of the schools because of constant harassment. So this is what we need to look into in terms of the diversity inclusion. Now these are the other statistics which talks about being safe or unsafe at the schools and other things. Now these are the other statistics, the other addiction statuses. Now there is this recent law amendment in India regarding the LGBTQ. They were given an opportunity, or they were given, actually not an opportunity, I would talk it as a right. They were given a right to legally change their gender by having this reassignment surgery. And then the constitution had given them the right to register themselves under various identity card schemes. They were also given the Aadhaar cards. They were also given the ration cards, so that they get food and they get the nominal requirements for feeding their stomach. Then they were also given the consensual permission to have homosexual intercourse, and they were also given the voting and citizenship rights under the Indian Constitution. Now these are few of the notable transgenders and the queers who have made their mark in the society. We have this Revati, who is the first transgender to write about the transgenders in Asia, problems of transgenders in Asia. We have Kalki Subramaniam, who's a transgender entrepreneur, and we have Nartaki Natarajan, who's the first transgender woman to receive the Sangeet Natak Award. There are a lot of the list which goes. I have brought in only few list here, but now I am just trying to show that though there are a lot of problems faced by them, they are still moving ahead with lot of positivity in them, and they want to mark their name in the history. So the society is actually changing. So this is what we are talking about, the transgenders and the LGBTQ. She is the first woman anchor on the television, and she is the first speaker, and though the MP also. Okay, now this is what we need to let in the strategies for the diversity and inclusion at the workplace. They need respect, they need acceptance and respect, irrespective of the genders and the type of persons they are. Accommodation of beliefs, there are a lot of various beliefs available for them. That also we need to respect, and cultural differences, ethnic differences should be accepted, and gender equality, generation gaps. We always find, even for that matter, in the educational sector also, we usually find that people are, we always hear these statements. I am more experienced than you. You are the next generation. You are not knowing things and all. Yes, we do accept it, but when it comes to the innovativeness and the technology acceptance, it is always required that the seniors and juniors should go hand in hand and try to achieve the vision of the institute or the country. Then the physical and mental disability should also be accepted, and language and communication should also be a part of it. In fact, a lot of companies now have started giving communication classes, wherein people should always learn the other languages, or in case if the employees are sent to the other countries, they should know the language and the cultures there. So in human resource management, we usually call it as the expatriate training. So there are a lot of such facilities available in the workplaces also for the diversity and inclusions. So these can be few of the strategies, very minimal, and over that again, depending on each one's idealization and innovative thinking, each one can have their own strategies, and that can help the gender inclusion and the diversity to be a successful practice. Okay, to conclude, it is always that you should give an equal opportunity for people to empower themselves, and empowerment through support, empowerment through finance, empowerment through family support. Actually, first one is family support, and then there are a lot of employment opportunities available for all kind of genders and all kind of citizens in the country, and there have been a lot of entrepreneurship development schemes and facilities available by the government and also non-government agencies across India, and to see that I would appreciate CED and the government of Tamil Nadu, for that matter, that they have been giving a lot of entrepreneurship development facilities for all kinds of genders across, compared to South Indian states. Tamil Nadu is one of the premier one where they have been supporting all kind of genders and all kind of people for entrepreneurship, and in turn they are helping for the economic development of the country. So with this conclusion, let us stop talking about the gender inclusion and the diversity aspects, and my only request is, let's start working towards it. Thank you so much. If you have any questions, we'll open for the questions.
How our students now find very difficult when they're doing their research in PhD or MPhil to find out some theories and related issues. What kind of theories are available for the latest studies? I thought these kind of things we might have told a little bit. So can you please tell something on it, ma'am? Thank you.
Sir, theories and other things I did not look into because it was too theoretical for them, for anybody. And however, looking at the research part, all those who will be doing research will usually get into the theoretical aspects of gender inclusion and other things. But however, if you just pass your email ID, I can share some of the literature which I have, which we use for our previous work.
Thank you. Thank you.
Second question is that the Indian Supreme Court has decriminalized homosexual people and their sexual intercourse, but there is no law for marriage. So does that mean that all the people, sexuality minorities and gender minorities, have been budgeted in the gender aspect in India? That is my question, madam.
Sir, there is a law on the same-sex marriage, I suppose. You'll have to check into the rules, because yesterday I was doing a small research on preparing the PPT. There I have seen some laws which were talking about the same-sex marriage. But then it again depends. See, anything which is being constitutionalized, or any laws and amendments which have been made by the government, at the end of the day, the acceptance of the society matters. And coming to your first question, yes, there are the rules and setup which has been in terms of the transgenders. I have personally, been involved into a lot of research conducted through, conducted on the transgenders. I feel that it is started. The change is started, but the results are not remarkable. But all said and done, we are on the path.
Okay, madam. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Madam, once again, I am Dr. A. Saravanadan. I want another, it's not a question. I want to know your position. Suppose you were there in the policy making area or in policy making side, what kind of remedy or what kind of steps or what kind of help would you like to bring in to these people? Maybe the third gender, the problems they are facing and all. As you said, you have a rich experience in research you have conducted in the gender issues. What would you recommend to a policy issue?
Sir, they are also citizens. They are also born in India. So whatever is there for the other genders, it is my personal opinion. If I was a part of policy maker, I would have given an equal right for them also.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
We thank you again and appreciating your powerful and informative session, madam. We have seen that a lot of facts and figures were thrown out to the learned segments, and especially your one slide is impressive, that the general inclusion consisting the examples of Kiran Pedi madam, Sudha Murthy, Savitri, Srimati Rani, and lot more. Next slide, you add your name also and your photograph also. You are an example for that. You are an empowered lady and really with dynamic nature. Your representation was inspiration for all of us. And due to time constraints, we will go for the formal vote of thanks, madam. Thank you very much once again. And it's really an inspiring lecture from your side. Thank you, madam.
Well, I am Dr. Gopala Sundar.
Okay, sir. Please proceed, sir.
Okay, sir. Okay. எல்லா உலகும் ஏகனாய் காக்கும் வல்லோன் உனக்கு வான் புகழ் அனைத்தும். First of all, I thank the Almighty for the blessing disguise. On behalf of PG and Research Department of Economics, I am indebted to thank our Honorable Secretary, Sri N. Tyagarajan sir, for having been given us the permission to conduct one-day national level webinar on gender inclusive economic growth strategies and challenges. Thank you, sir. On behalf of PG and Research Department of Economics, I thank our most respected Joint Secretary, Sri T. Narayanan sir, for being with us always to fulfill our academic needs and deeds. Thank you very much, sir. On behalf of PG and Research Department of Economics, I thank our principal, most respected Dr. M. Kannan sir, for his support to conduct this webinar successfully. Thank you very much, sir. On behalf of PG and Research Department of Economics, I am greatly indebted to thank our most respected Vice Principal, Dr. K. Krishnan sir, for his encouragement and moral support for this webinar grand success. Thank you very much, sir. On behalf of BG and Research Department of Economics, I thank resource person, Professor Maya Salimat, corporate trainer, soft and life skill engineer, Director, Quality Assurance Cell, RR Institutions, Bangalore, Karnataka, for making this webinar and today grand success by her thought-provoking and inspiring thunder speech. Thank you very much, madam. You have kindly consented to give your valuable speech for this webinar amidst all your busy schedule. We are really inspired with your speech, madam. Thank you very much, madam. On behalf of PG and Research Department of Economics, I thank our head of the department. I will be failing in my duty if I am not indebted to this great gentleman, most respected Professor, our head of the department, convener of today's program, Dr. M. Jayakumar sir, for his motivation, encouragement, moral support, what and what not. There is a popular saying, behind every success, there is a man. Yes, he who is. Thank you, sir. I thank the organizing secretary, Dr. K. Meenakshi Sundaram sir, for having been arranged this interesting webinar with interesting topic. Thank you very much, sir. I thank our organizing members, Dr. M. Meena madam and Dr. K. Subramanian sir. On behalf of PG and Research Department of Economics, I thank head of the departments of various departments, all the professors and non-teaching staff of our college, and the professors from various universities, colleges, and students. Finally, this program would never be possible unless otherwise the technical support is given. I thank the technician for making this webinar grand success. Thank you one and all. Thank you.